we're inspired by what we did this weekend, and what we did this weekend is work that we had to do because what we're going to talk about wasn't done before, and that is this concept of Swedish death cleaning.
This is the Loud Quiet Living the Empty Nest. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Loud Quiet. This is episode 54. We are recording on a not typical day today because we were gone this weekend and just couldn't do it on Sunday. Couldn't get it together. So, and we will tell you why.
Was it just because we were lazy?
Yeah, no.
I guess it depends on your perspective, but I didn't feel lazy.
So for those of you who have seen the title before, you're probably saying, I don't know what that is, or maybe some of you have heard of it. So you want to talk about what...
We're inspired by what we did this weekend, and what we did this weekend is work that we had to do because what we're going to talk about wasn't done before. And that is this concept of Swedish death cleaning, which is such a what did I put on Facebook today? I said, it's not a thrash metal band or anything like that, but it's a dark sounding title. And
I wonder if did it get interpreted differently, or is that really what, I mean, you've done some reading about it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you used the word reading, not research, because I will say I have scratched the surface. There is so much out there. It's a quick, easy Google Swedish death cleaning to find a lot, but it's based, at least in the U.S., where we first became aware of it was in 2017, where Margareta, see, I'm going to have to pretend like I can speak Scandinavian languages, Magnusson wrote The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, How to Make Your Loved Ones' Lives Easier and Your Own Life More Pleasant.
So I have a question for you, because I'd never heard of this, and you had brought it up a few weeks ago, months ago. Where did it come back into or how did you hear about it? Or do you know?
I really wish I knew where it was brought to my awareness in the near term. I can't imagine I was paying attention in 2017.
No.
Yes, I do. It was either BBC or The Guardian.
Okay.
So it was one of those news websites that was talking about it, and it was earlier this year. It was either as my mom was sick or it was after my mom had passed. And so, of course, those are the headlines that are going to catch my eyes. What is that? And so as I was reading about it, it is a fascinating concept. It is not, exactly, how to make your loved ones' lives easier and also your own life easier. And I realize we're talking about a serious topic here, and the cat is going nuts, and we apologize for our distraction.
He's showing off. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, but he's showing off camera. He's such a nut. He's actually a mischievous little turd because he wants to distract us rather than show off on the camera and be cute. But the whole concept at the highest level, this is not me even looking at it, it's basically, how do you clean your house and all your stuff out so that after you pass, others are not taking that task on. Others are not having to put the effort in and the exhaustion into cleaning up things and making decisions that can be hard to make when the person whose stuff it isn't around to provide context, to provide an emotional guide towards it, or even just simply an explanation.
And I think one thing to be brought up is us as empty nesters, and you that are viewing, many of us still have our parents and they are aging. Many of us have lost our parents. But, we are now in our 50s and trying to do this stuff because people are living longer. It could be you're into your 60s or 70s when you're trying to do this stuff. No, thank you.
Right.
I mean, we were exhausted just after this short weekend.
And we're talking about my mom passing away in her 70s. Realize her husband, Jerry, is that same age. So, yes, we're talking about the kids, but imagine the surviving spouse of an aged person at that point, too, having to do similar things like this. So it really does. It is the point of making your love lives easier and helping your own.
And if you don't have a good relationship with your family, then there may be no one to do this for you, or
as the show we started watching last night, how it's either how not to die,
how to die alone.
and
Yes.
the first episode was a person who did die alone, and there's more to it than that. But at that point, she had no family, and so what does that look like? I did like why Swedish Death Cleaning could change your life. And there were 3 reasons that it put in this one article. It was actually from the Today Show in 2017. So this is dated. There's plenty of other articles that are more modern.
So is this before? I wonder, because there was the whole craze of that, and there was even that show.
So I
does it talk
deleted
about
that.
it?
No,
Okay.
well, it does, but I deleted it. This is that person that was the minimalist, that Mian.
I don't know her name, and I wouldn't try to say it.
Yeah,
'cause
probably.
we don't know it.
So I'm just going to make up crap here.
People know. I'm
And it's
sure
the
most
idea of
people know.
cleaning and living a minimalist life and that sort of thing. This is sort of beyond that, because this is going into not just organizing your living, but organizing your passing. And the 3 things that it talked about were it might make you happier is one. If you pare down, the argument is that you can better focus on the really important things in life. With that clutter that's there, your attention can be bouncing between the things that are in your house. And that is very much related to the second one, which is it might help you feel less stressed and overwhelmed and get more done. This quote from the author: when there is less chaos on the outside, we're likely to feel less chaos on the inside.
Totally agree with that. I hate clutter. I hate clutter. I hate things on my countertops. I hate things just out on floors. I want things to have their place. So I'm a huge proponent of that. Even, we'll get into more of it, but yeah.
And the last is a serious. Some might view it as dark. I don't, but it might help you cope with your own mortality. One of the things that folks, you and I are not in this category. There are people, though, that just don't want to really spend time acknowledging mortality, acknowledging a reality of, life. And so this idea of getting rid of items can serve as a reminder that things don't last forever, including us. Like, all right, okay. And for me, it's not like that third item. I'm going to go Letterman style here. For that third item, that's less. I know that I'm going to die. I've been around it. I've got both of my parents have passed away. It's really more about what's going to do for us is the decluttering of the mind, the thinning, and then the gift that our kids won't realize that we're giving them, but the gift that they will get if and when we go through this exercise.
I still remember at your mom's little get together that we had after she passed for close family and friends, one of her very close friends talking about because y'all had gone through all of the or some of the photo albums. And this lady said, well, I don't care. My kids will have to deal with it. And I was like, no, that's the wrong choice.
And her personality is exactly like that. She said the right things.
Because we are in the age, we're in between. We have a few things that had to be printed because we were before digital cameras, everything going to your computer. Our children will have very minimal, unless I have printed pictures for them. They don't have prints. It's all on their phone. It's all on their photos that, digital photo frames that just flip through. So
that is another category, the Swedish Death Clean, though, that I didn't talk about there, that I read about. There's an entire digital component to this, because what our kids are going to have to suffer through, photos can be a little easier. There's metadata, there's that sort of information, but all of the files that are saved on Google Drive, all of the documents that are out there, all of the digital, but
all of
paper.
the Loud Quiet episodes that are on.
That's right. Which of these do we get rid of?
Which they don't watch now, but they probably will, later.
So that's a category in and of itself, and it is. Like, I think about our house, and we could easily go through this exercise just starting in like our closet and starting there. We thin from time to time, but I don't thin with the mindset of, right, but if I were to pass, what needs to be here.
So, sure, but I don't know. I feel like, and I made this comment, I go through my closet all the time because I've talked about buying. I don't buy a lot of high end,
Right.
fast fashion. So I don't feel guilty if I'm like, oh, donate it. I've worn it a few times. So no, I feel like I go now. I have morphed into having to take over another closet now that one of the children is gone. But I feel like I go through, and again, but I did say, that was my goal when we got the guest or Tanner's room done and the guest room semi open. Of course, then I decided I didn't like the bed in the other room, so I bought a new bed. So now the guest room is
Can we stay on
filled
topic
again.
here?
I
Because
know,
I'm gonna get so.
but I do. It's really the closets that have all of their stuff from kinder to, and now that has oozed out into the guest room because there's no more closet space to put stuff.
And I'm glad you said the kinder part, because I think that's a key part of it. And we will talk about, hang on with us, because we're going to talk about some tips on how, and then we're going to talk about the actual experience that we had at my mom's house, because it wasn't Swedish Death Cleansed. And that, okay, we've got stuff from kinder. And it's meaningful almost psychologically to us because it's there. It's comforting to know that it's there. But if you were thinking, not you, Clancy, the general, if you were thinking about it in the context of, but what about after I pass, that changes your perspective on whether you retain that item or not.
And I had already done one pass through all of their tubs, and I need to do another. And that is why at one point I took all of their t-shirts and uniforms. I saved certain ones, but I know a lot of people make the quilts. My kids wouldn't care about that. So I took photos of all of them to make into a book so that then they will have, oh, I remember that shirt. I remember that, from that competition. I remember that so I have done some of that, but yes, I need to do another pass. But
that's actually what you just said there is something that's different about now versus say 10, 15 years ago, someone having to go through this. There's actually a couple things in that. One is, if I'm struggling with the retention of an item, but I know I just am tired of the item, but I don't want to forget the memory of the item, snap a picture. I've got it, which then I add to the digital clutter that someone else has to deal with. But at least I've got that memory retained. I think the other part of this, too, is the generation before us was a more stuff-oriented generation. And so when we were going through, as we'll talk about, there's just more stuff. And I don't know how much stuff our generation has.
I think because the style has changed, It's gone to a very modern, sleek, and not everyone likes that. I do. So I don't have a lot of knick-knack tchotchkes kind of things out anywhere. So
it's funny. It's at the corner of my eye. I'm looking at this the shelf.
Well, okay, look.
That is a set. It's a design. I get it, but it's just funny that we don't have a lot of tchotchkes. Oh, there's a nest with eggs in it.
Let's count how many things. There's 9 cubes with one item in each thing, not 4,000 things. So
jammed where you can't even see it.
But I did, when we were talking about this, I pulled these 7 tips for Swedish death cleaning. One is remove excess, which if you have 10 white shirts, you probably only need 3. And if they have stuff on them, you probably should get rid of them. Go digital. We talked about that. You just said that. Discard with intention and without guilt. And that is something that is hard for some people and not so hard for others. So
do you want to go through it, or do you want to stop down on a couple? Because that one I've got some thoughts of some things that I read. But
go ahead.
Yeah, so the discard without intention. There was one person that was talking about how I'm really struggling because someone gave this to me, and the author is saying in the book, right. But the memory of the gift and the giving is what should be warming your heart. If the object itself no longer does, discard the object. You still have the memory of the kindness of the gift, but the object can be discarded without guilt. You can intentionally choose, I am this category, gone without guilt.
Buy less.
Well,
that's hard.
like a
That's
pre-tip.
hard. That's hard for everyone in in America. So maybe Swedes are better at that than we are. Be gentle and considerate of others. This was one that we had to
exercise this over the
exercise.
weekend
Yeah.
in Austin, where we were
Yeah.
ready to do something, and one of the other people that's involved in it said, "I need a minute," and everyone said, "Okay,
Yeah.
have your minute."
Yeah. So take care of yourself. I don't know if we did such a great job of that this weekend because
I did at dinner.
Sure, but allow yourself to feel and reflect. And I think that, I mean, we laughed a ton. We, this is not my mom's house, but our kid, I mean, this is the house that you moved into when you were in kindergarten,
I was
probably
4 or 5 years old.
yeah. And our kids have grown up going to this house. So
Yeah.
some of the toys were like, "Oh, remember?" And I was calling them and saying, "Oh, do you remember the Coke truck that had?"
Right.
And Tanner was like, "Oh yeah, with the little bottles and the." So, that was fun. We had laughs about finding some of our wedding, your sister's wedding gifts that were some that were comical, that were still in that house, that because we didn't want to take them to our house. So so it, these.
And there are very, I like this list because this gets into the emotions of it, because there's a lot that's emotional about this. There's some very practical and tactical tips that are out there around start in your closets. Start with clothes. That's what a lot of things have said, is start with clothes, start with closets. And then there's another, start with furniture and just look at the biggest pieces first and start there. Why? Because the biggest pieces are the biggest pain in the fanny for your family to handle downstream.
Well, then I'm proud of myself because I actually had I saw my role as kind of the task oriented. Here's what I think we should do. And I wasn't going to overstep because, like I said, this isn't my family's home. But I think my role as, this is how I think we should break it down, and going through that, I think it worked. And what was the first thing we did? We went through all the furniture and said, what's staying in the house, what's getting donated, what's getting sold, what do you want to keep? So, and yes, that took, because those big pieces, now we don't have to think about them until we need to move them out. But we knew we couldn't do that in the 2 days that we were going to be there. So
No, and that is certainly one difference about what we did versus a death cleaning while you're alive.
Yeah.
You're making a decision around, okay, this needs to go now.
Yeah.
I no longer have a need or a value or a sentiment or a thing associated with this object.
And
now.
that it's interesting because, again, this is another generational change, is that your mom, my mom, have lots of antique, big, bulky furniture pieces that at some point had a ton of value. I don't know how much they do now,
Right.
but the style has changed, where when we were growing up, you didn't go to Target to buy a bookshelf. You bought a bookshelf at the furniture store that costs 2 or 3 times as much and weighs 3 times as much.
Right.
So it's easier. We just took Tanner's old desk that was all beat up, and, because we didn't have any thoughts about taking it to the dump. I would have donated it, but it was in horrible shape.
No. It was unsafe to give to anyone.
Yeah. But we didn't have any.
Listen, you
Well, I didn't want people to be like, you should donate
discard
that.
with
I know,
intention
but
and without guilt.
that's not. But I didn't have any guilt over it, but I don't want someone saying, why didn't you donate it? Because it was not donatable.
Right.
But we didn't have any qualms about taking it to the dump because I didn't pay $700 for that desk.
Right.
So I think there's that generational, that from now forward until that type of style comes back, it's not as hard to do the furniture. Think about, we've I've sold so much of our furniture and donated.
Because there's not the grandfather clock that
Yes,
needs to
right.
have some sort it was brought
Or the
overseas
four
from
grandfather
Germany.
clocks.
Right, because those were brought overseas from Germany, and the stove
And
that's at a
the
flea market in
decorative
Belgium.
stove, that weighs probably 200 pounds.
Hey, not my issue.
Yeah. So anyway, so that is what we did this weekend. And so I just put a collage of just a smattering of photos.
Yeah, this is not
This is
it.
not even it. We were there for all day Friday, most of the day Saturday, and we worked all day Friday except to stop to go eat lunch with Nana. And then we worked all day Saturday until we left at, after 3:00. You did 4 runs to the donation.
And this was with
Packed,
we
full
rented a
SUV,
Nissan Rogue, so
yeah.
this was not the tiny car.
I mean, I think we probably had 17 or 18 bags of just clothes.
Yeah, probably so. And that's why the clean before is so. You do it yourself. You acquired it and you get rid of it. Most of what we were dealing with did not have sentiment. There were plenty of items that had sentiment, but when you're talking about my mom's clothes, well, that's just more about, is it of a quality that is still donatable?
Right. Yes.
And that was really
Yes.
the only decision
Yeah.
point of.
That, and there were a few things like her wedding dress to your dad. We kept that in the closet.
Yeah.
She had a couple of high school or college formal dresses that I told Rachel, I said, oh, keep those because the girls may want, now that's the trend is to wear your mother or grandmother's. So there were a few things.
That's a good example, though, of kind of almost a cop-out, though, because if we had to clear out of this house, what would we do with that? And so you just hang on
Someone
to
would
it.
take it to
Yeah.
their house.
So
But
it shows that even, as I said, it's easy and yet it's not. There will
Well,
always
no.
be those end items, those
Yeah.
edge items that are hard to choose from.
And we only made it through, I'd say total, let's call it a room and a half. Maybe 2 rooms.
I'd give us 2 and maybe 2.5. I think what happened is we refilled those rooms with other stuff. But
Yes. The closet that we completely cleared out is now filled with photo albums and photos, which again, like we talked about, and this is where it'd be an interesting question to pose to people because several of the photo albums that we kept were your mom's parents.
yeah.
I just don't know how much. Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. Maybe keeping a few photos of, but you didn't even know your granddad because he had passed away before you were even born. So, those kind of things are the things that you're like, I want to
what
get rid
bothers-
of them, but I don't know what to do.
Well, you know what? I have no emotion to those. But what I do wonder is there a historical element to it that is then lost by destroying it? Is there something that, and because we do a good job as a society of recording and understanding the big moments, but we don't necessarily, although now with everybody recording everything, but back then, what was life like? And if you think about archaeology or anything that a lot of us study of the way back past, the ancient, a lot of the gaps are, well, what was life actually really like? How did people go to the grocery store equivalent? How did they love? How did they marry? How did they raise kids? What did that look like?
Well, and that's why I think you can pull some, but do we need 5 albums of that? That because, and again, that was before the time that you could see what you were taking a picture of. So some of them may not even be good anyways. And we didn't even touch. We were like, nope, just put those in the closet. That's
We're gonna have
totally
a whole different session.
Yeah, section on that.
We didn't even talk about slides. At least photos I can look at, but slides. Slides
gosh.
are the bane of the cleanup existence because you don't know what's on that little square unless you take the time to get some device or put it on a light table And so what are you throwing away?
We didn't throw any of them away.
I know, but
They're all still there.
if I could go back in time, there's a few things I would do in life, and one of those is smack the inventor of the slide technology and avoid it altogether.
And those were your dad's. He was huge into slides. Yes.
No, there's ones that are before my dad's slides. I was shocked.
Whose are they?
I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Well, and that's, even your sister said, because we found a stack of VHS tapes, and someone said, well, have they been converted to DVDs? And Rachel said, well, if we don't know what's on them, then who cares? And I was like, yes, but no, we kept them, because then we're like, well.
And I think, you know what, when we talk about the house, okay, so this was clean out my mom's house, but if you were doing this, because to clean out my mom's house is an example for us of what you would do when you're cleaning out your own house in this kind of Swedish Death clean. And I think we didn't get bogged down on the difficult things while we still had easy things to do.
Exactly.
I think that's an important tip is if you get bogged and you still have plenty of easy, create a category of bog. It's going to suck when we go through it. Mm-hmm. It didn't stall us, though, from feeling the accomplishment and the exhaustion of getting through the easier items.
And, like we've said, Jerry, your mom's husband, is staying in the house.
Right.
So, but if we were getting this house ready to sell in a couple, we would have had to have been down there for, I guarantee, probably 2 weeks after seeing what it.
So please do the Swedish Death Clean.
You had your expectations set up here.
No, that's not entirely fair. I actually had some of my expectations met. What I wanted to make sure we did is we didn't just pile everything up and know that we're going to do it later. No, the 4 trips to the donation were incredibly satisfying. Mm-hmm. The things that we chose to take back to the house, limited, but we did take them, were part of that execution. Rachel taking things out of the house were part of it. So I may have thought we might have gotten through some more rooms. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that we did something with decisions.
I mean, Rachel and I were working on something else while you were working in what we call the playroom closet. And I just, like, Rachel and I walked back in there. You had already gone out to do something else. And she opened the door and she goes, oh, and she closed it. She said, I thought he cleaned that. I was like, oh no, he just got to the clothes. And then I opened it. I was like, oh, clothes.
Like it's some sort of scary monster.
I know. It reminded me of, I think it's Friends when she has her.
That Monica's Sanford and Sons, right? Yeah.
So, but we did find the sentimental stuff. Yeah. So let me get to that. So yes. This is a picture of your prized possession. One of them.
I was excited about this is an unknown possession of mine. It was something I was excited about having. And when I looked at the individual cars that were in there.
It's Hot Wheels. You need to say what
Oh, that's right. Sorry if you're not listening. Hot Wheels. And this doesn't even show some of my favorites in there, but I have vivid memories of playing with that. It was like an American Airlines bus. And then there's the ambulance there. And I always thought that, I'm sitting here pointing, I know if you're not listening, but there was like a little street racer there that was so cool. And on the prior one, it showed a car carrier.
Yes.
That I thought was just awesome.
So, so that's your Hot Wheels. And then, oh Lord.
El Tizona del Cid. This is a sword that I'm assuming my dad picked up at some tourist store in Spain and when they used to live in Europe. What's a little, there's the only reason this got carried back home is because he was with the military, and so there was the military transfer of goods back. But I knew the sword existed in the house for a while, but this was one of our first trips driving back from Austin, so I was finally able to drive back the sword.
Yeah, but I like Jerry said, don't get pulled over because it is a long sword. So.
And it's not, there's nothing famous about it or anything, but it's a sword.
Now, this one was exciting to unbox.
This was a shocking
Which
surprise.
was also in a box with, was that the one that had your mom's gowns or whatever in it?
No, I think it was like stationery that was sitting on top of it.
Okay, I didn't even see until I saw you go.
Interspersing of tips here, go through pockets. And if you open a box and say, oh, yeah, that's just, nope.
Look
Go
underneath,
through every piece of the box. Because under this, again, if you're just listening, these are 3 almost unworn
Yeah, pristine looking
T-shirts commemorating Duke's 1991 championship. Duke's, how many was that? That was 6 Final Fours when they were in the 1991 championship. No, that was the 92 championship. Sorry.
Yeah, that's 92 up there.
Well, yeah, I was going. So all the Final Fours that they were in, and then the back-to-back 1992 national championship, and these shirts are pristine. The ones that like I gave to Tanner, that was the Final Four T-shirt. It is ratted. It's
it had a
holes.
hole,
It's ripped.
yeah, yellow.
I'm excited about these.
Yeah,
these I'm going to
are-
end up framing and put in some frame with the section of Cameron Indoor Stadium's floor. And these are the kind of discoveries that are kind of fun. And I guess this is the counter argument to the Swedish Death Cleanse, because my mom would have said, well, that's in the past. Take a picture of it and move on. I guess one of the things is involve others is, hey, I'm getting rid of this. Do you need it? Do you want it? Because these were amazing.
So that's an interesting point, because I have gone through the kids' T-shirts and uniforms, and I made the decision.
Oh, I know. You are further
but
on that
they
spectrum.
But they were young.
You're just asking you said it's an interesting question.
Yeah, but something like this, I would know that is special. And I did. I said that already before. I did keep the special things that, but that is an interesting, when they're, because I did that first round, they were still here. It was when they were probably high school and middle school. So, but it was also because they didn't have any more space in their rooms.
Look, all I'm saying is on the spectrum of
Yeah.
discard without consideration for anyone to the extreme perspective of retain on the off chance that your third cousin might care about it, you skew closer towards the discard versus when it's...
I don't agree with that. But,
Really? But you just said
well,
you did.
because I said I kept the things that I knew would be important to them. I think I know my children well enough, which is probably why these were still in a box somewhere and hadn't been thrown away.
No, I think she just put them in a box and forgot about it. Sorry, that didn't work there.
So, okay, well, I like to think that I would not get rid of...
Something that mattered.
Yes. So, I mean, there's lots of things that I would like to get rid of that Tegan owns, and I can't and it's 4 boxes of stuffed animals. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Yes, this is my dad's towel. I kind of remember it, and if you're not seeing it, it's kind of an 80s block style graphic on the back with the Playboy bunny, and the towel says "For Playboys and Playmates only."
Oh, there are the clogs.
You didn't
always
crop that picture at all.
I didn't see the clogs in that picture.
All right, everybody, just
What
focus.
do we? Oh, did Rachel take those?
Yeah, that's the Rachel pile
okay.
over there. Yeah,
Those clogs sat in the living room forever
as a decoration.
So, yeah,
So, for Playboys and Playmates
yeah,
only.
that one's funny.
Now, this one I took back and I was excited about. This is an ABBA to Mamma Mia official book, and it's one of those thick picture books that I didn't actually know they had.
No, I've never seen it before.
So it's fun to just flip through and see all these. This is more memory of my dad with certainly an extension into my mom.
Yeah, but yeah. So that it was.
We were exhausted.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why we didn't record on our normal day. We did choose to come back Saturday, which I'm so thankful we did, because I don't know that I could have done Monday coming off of.
And we drove, and we did that on purpose because we didn't know when we'd come back, so we needed the flexibility. So we flew down there and then drove back. And until I actually went and got a Diet Dr. Pepper, I don't think I said any words.
No,
that
we
little
did.
caffeine hit me.
I got in the car and started talking. Then I was like, okay, he doesn't want to talk. So then I stopped. And then when you got your caffeine, then you wanted to talk. I was like, no, I don't want to talk
So
now.
we didn't talk a lot yet.
So yeah,
That was actually, to call it nice is wrong, but it was very head clearing to be able to do that drive back.
and we did get, we did stop down and take time to go visit Nana. We had, a couple of dinners, one family dinner, and So that was good, but it was definitely good. I mean, on Friday night when I looked and I said, it's 5, almost 6 o'clock. I haven't even showered yet.
Yeah.
So if we're going to dinner, we have to stop
Yeah,
now.
we were physically and mentally just spent.
And that's what it's, when you think of cleaning out, that kind of thing, even moving, you think of the physical taxation that it's on, but this was mental, emotional. I mean, yeah, it covered all of the bases.
Yeah, when you're making a decision on every item, and at a certain point categories get easier, but every item effectively has a decision associated with it. Mm-hmm. That's an electricity passing through a synapse in your brain. Yeah, your brain gets tired after that many decisions.
And just having to try to think about how are you going to attack this?
Yeah.
Because, like we said, again, when we got back, on Sunday, we were talking about, because we're going back down next month. Okay, what are we going to do next? And we started, and I could see you were like, I can't. Because there's still so much to do.
Well, it's the photos and the items to be decided on later.
I'm not even talking about that.
But that's what I'm talking about. That's the one that I'm having trouble dealing. Going through rooms, I'm good. We just kind of do our wave through it.
Yes, but when we started talking about, there's all the bookshelves.
Oh yeah, no.
Both living areas. Hell. There's So, anyways,
we were spent.
Yes, you and I were tired. You wanted to stop and eat somewhere. I said, I don't want to be around people, noise. No, I said, let's just run into H-E-B and pick up our sushi and cheese.
Might not even talk to each other at dinner.
Yeah, so I just wanted to come home and watch some TV and eat. So we're in H-E-B and we get a text from Tanner that says,
are y'all doing dinner at the house tonight? We're
to
at
which
H-E-B.
both of us,
I didn't respond right away. You should have shown the timestamp.
Because I was in one section of the store and I found you and he said, he just texted and wants to do dinner. And I was like, okay, I love my child. I love my child. I love my child. And he wasn't coming from his apartment. He had been in Frisco for a couple of events. And so, of course, I want to see my child. But for those of you who know Tanner, he is high energy. Luckily, he just bopped in, ate dinner with us, and then left because he had plans too. So, but yeah,
it was one of those. This was so Swedish Death Cleanse, and then cleaning out your parents' house. All that is very empty nest. This is very empty nest too.
Yes.
We still love our kid. We still desperately want any time that our kids want to spend time with us. Of course, we're going to say yes. But oh man, I was so tired.
And it ended up being fine. He was telling us stories,
and it was good because he got to tell stories while we just sat there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So basically, we watched TV. It was just a human TV sitting there.
Oh yeah, because I guess football was on. So
no, well, yes, and I meant that we didn't have to interact. We're just sitting there staring at Tanner, listening to his stories. Yeah. Yes, and football was on.
So a tip would be for those of us in this stage of life is do your own home for one. But if you still have parents that are living in their homes, maybe start helping them go through this process before it has to be done.
Send them the link to this episode. Just plant the seed with them. Yeah. Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. Did y'all know about this thing? Just start planting seeds. No. Because that third point that I mentioned in there are plenty of people who are not comfortable with their own mortality. Yeah. And a topic like this can be uncomfortable, yet it's so valuable.
And I think, too, like I said, you don't want to have to we have the luxury of we can take our time to do this because the house isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Jerry's staying in it for now. So, if you're under the situation that, oh my gosh, we have to move my parents out right now and sell this house, I can't imagine trying to do all of this rushed.
You'll end up overpaying for storage units.
Yeah.
Is what you'll end up doing.
Yes. Oh, the storage unit. We didn't even talk about that.
That's next trip. Hopefully next trip. So,
see.
Swedish Death Cleanse.
We will get off the death kick because our last 2 episodes have been
Had the word
about
die in it.
diet.
Yeah. Well, when you got more in the rear view mirror than you do in the headlights, that. Oh goodness.
Lord.
Well, another episode of The Loud Quiet,
Living the Empty Nest.